Well, good evening, everybody. A bit odd to say that, but I'm recording this late on Sunday night as I have to pick my parents up from the airport by 6 a.m. in Chicago tomorrow morning. So I got to get out of here about 3 a.m., and that's not going to be enough time to make a recording for you in the morning. So I just wanted to get something out late tonight so you have this to watch if you're still up, and if not, you'll see it in the morning anyway. This is the satellite data from Sunday, and here's the plan for today. After covering what these next couple of systems are going to do and kind of talking about some of the terminology that's been tossed around lately about these next couple of systems, I'm going to walk you through a multi-model analysis. I'm going to start to dig into whether there is cold risk late in the month of March into April. I'm going to show you the newest long-range national multi-model ensemble that just came out, and it did make a very dry trend in the central United States. We need to discuss that. And then I've got some very important trends, I think, coming out of South America. So we need to get into all that. And again, let's just start here. This is just a quick animation from Sunday. And, stopped at an interesting time there. But if you look, we do have one cyclone that's kind of spinning its way over toward the south, and he's continued to add more moisture down in the southeast, which was needed. But it's kind of fun to go back through the day and just see where there was snow from the previous two systems, one here and there, and some of the snow that came out of parts of southern Colorado and New Mexico into the panhandle, especially down here of Texas. And a lot of that, of course, melted pretty quickly as the day went on today just because of the warm up in temperatures. But that's moisture. I mean, there was moisture that got into the ground. We can also see some of the snow that's down here in the mountains in Arizona. So for the past several weeks, we've looked at these snowfall amounts. We did it on Friday just in the southern part of the mountain chain over here in the western United States. And we could see how low those amounts were. Sorry, we just got a new image in there. So I just want to kind of walk through this a little bit, and I'm going to give you the national view of what this weekend held. So this is total accumulated precipitation, so quite a bit calmer than what we saw last week, but we do know we have a pretty big cyclone that's on its way through. So let's just, by region, have a quick look at how much moisture did fall this past weekend starting in the southwest. So look at this down in the LA Basin, all the way down to San Diego, some moisture. You can then see what fell in Arizona. For some folks, this wasn't just the first meaningful rain, but this was a tremendous amount of rain and then mountain snow compared to what we've seen for the last 7 to 8 months in this area. If we then slide over into the Midwest here, just to get a quick look, this was mostly snow that came through here. There was some mixed with rain out ahead of it, but this is all, for the most part, melted as we got into the day on Sunday, adding some more moisture to that topsoil. Go a little farther south here, I just wanted to show you what did come right across the Red River Valley and then surrounding counties. I mean, this was some much needed moisture in this area. I was actually talking to a few folks that were down here just saying, hey, this bought a tremendous amount of time. And remember, this was an area that received quite a bit of moisture back in November. So to see this at this stage is a game changer. The streaky nature farther to the south, thunderstorm activity that you see here, and this extended into the southeast. And remember, we were watching this region develop drought. And so to see these heavy rains kind of move into this area, overall, this is a good look at getting some moisture back into some key areas that have been drier. So that gets me to this. Where have we been since the start of this new month? We're 9 days in, and I just wanted to kind of pull up some stats here on the way that March has kind of shifted things around. So let's go ahead and look at these drier spots to get things started. I'm watching the northern plains. I'm watching parts of the OhioValley up toward the Appalachian Mountains. We're still seeing quite dry conditions if you're down into parts of southern Texas, New Mexico, and then this corner up here in the Pacific Northwest. But outside of that big storm system last week plus the two that followed really kind of painted a pretty wet corridor through the central part of the United States. We even got some more moisture into the northeast as well. Now, the question is, with this next big system that's coming through, are we going to continue to hit the same areas, or are we going to start to open up, or at least close up some of the drought areas, which we just pointed out here? So here it is. There's your next 7 days, according to the WPC forecast released on Sunday. Now, we talked last week about how the western United States was going to get hit repeatedly. We're talking about huge snowfall amounts in the Sierra Nevada, throughout the Intermountain West, and so on. But there's been a concern about these dry slots opening up in a large way that are hitting parts of Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. We are expecting quite a bit of wet weather down in the southeast, and we're going to talk about the chances for snow on the northern side of this as the system goes through. But you probably saw, because I got asked about it a lot over the weekend, but you probably saw multiple references to the storm system being called a bomb cyclone. I'm talking about the one that's going to be here later this week. Now that term, bomb cyclone, it just kind of hit the news media cycle pretty heavily about, I think, 3 years ago. And when it did come out, I covered it on this YouTube channel. I just want to show you something as to where we got that term from. It came from this journal article written in this peer-reviewed journal called Monthly Weather Review. It's one of our more prestigious journals that we publish, content about understanding how weather systems work around the world. So this is one. It was written by Fred Sanders. I think I mentioned this last minute. Fred Sanders is a pioneering atmospheric scientist. He was one of the first to develop some numerical weather simulations that helped us understand upper-level dynamics and their influence on surface weather patterns. In fact, when I was in grad school, we used to run some of his models on these old Fortran systems. That was my first language I coded in, and he's just a pioneer. So he wrote this paper called The Synoptic Dynamic Climatology of a Bomb. And what he defined a bomb cyclone is right here in the abstract. It's where the central pressure of the low pressure system falls at a rate of 1 millibar per hour. Okay, so that's what it is. And what that refers to is just rapid intensifications. Hurricanes do it all the time. But when we're talking about these big, storm systems in the Midwest, as an example, or just off the West Coast, or the nor'easters that roll up the East Coast, this kind of rapid intensification can be, it can produce a devastatingly, large storm system that has a lot of impact. So what's going to do? This is what Fred, if you were watching my video, would be proud of. This is what I learned from this guy. As you watch the upper level flow getting into Tuesday, March 11th, toward the 12th and into the 13th, we've got a couple of things. There's a deep wave just off the west coast and one that's exiting early to the south, but this is the piece that we're paying most attention to. That is a small component of the subtropical jet that's going to take this trough, this shortwave trough, and give it some pretty serious upper level curvature. Now, what we're talking about is this. See, the polar jet's coming through, the subtropical jet's eating right away at the bottom side of it. We're going to try to close off a small low here, but the curvature effect of this right in through there, again, has a negatively tilted trough. Here's our ridge downstream, and you can see the angle at which these two pieces are working together. And all that this does is that the divergence around the four quadrants of this trough and then the curvature effect are really ripping off an area right in through here where we're going to have basically three different sources of upper level. Basically, we call it divergence, but it's just where air is exhausting aloft. And just like I explained with the last one, that means that the surface there's going to be a low. We're just going to be pulling in air to fill this in. But the upper atmosphere is going to take air out at a rate that will drop the pressure at a rate greater than 1 millibar per hour, hence the bomb cyclone name that this is going to be given. The wind speeds around this are going to be pretty intense, and the severe weather aspect throughout the Mississippi Valley is going to be significant as well. And we're going to watch for a rapid change in temperatures behind this and the potential for possibly another blizzard warning. Now, where are we in time? This is the end of the week. This is Friday, Saturday. And then it goes into the northeast, and just as we talked about last week, we still have flow coming through with these relatively shorter waves that are coming into the west coast. And we've got another one. This is March 18th. And the question is, do we just keep this going? Now, I told you I need 7 of these. We're going to have 2 done by the end of this week. And again, what are we needing 7 to do? Well, it's to undo all these drought areas in March. I mean, March could just rip off these systems one after another and completely beat back any sort of risk that we have on drought going forward. But let's do this. I just showed you the upper level pattern. Let me show you what this is going to do with the surface. I've got the European model on the right and the GFS on the left. We're starting this off Monday morning. So the heavy rain exits the southeast. There it goes. Little clipper rolls through Ontario and Quebec. And the lead wave, there's your cutoff, goes into Southern California. That's on Tuesday. That one gets over Arizona, just in the same place we saw the moisture from this past weekend and late last week. And that's going to bring just more good moisture into an area that needs it. We then watch that system try to carry itself to the lower Mississippi River Valley here. So it brings a little bit of mid to late week rainfall to this area. But the deepest low is now hitting the west. You can see the snow piling up in the Sierra Nevada, the snow into the Central Rockies. And then as this exits, it's going to get the effect of the downslope flow off the Rockies at the same time that we've got the, so that'll stretch any spin in the atmosphere, by the way, but at the same time we've got really good upper level divergence right in this vicinity. So watch the pressure drop right there. And that's our low. And where are we in time? This is early in the morning on Saturday. So here's what I want to mention. On Friday night, we're going to have to watch this corridor right in through here for severe weather. On the backside, how much dry air is pulled in to give us this expansive dry slot that we've been concerned about? And where's the snow going to fall in the back? Here, on the northwest side. So just take a look at what the models are doing here. This, again, is Friday night into Saturday morning, getting into Saturday afternoon and evening. And then take a look. We've got multi-day severe weather risk here, Friday into Saturday night. Some of it could be as far north as parts of the mid-Mississippi and OhioValley, and it's going to continue to stretch toward the south and east. So that's now next Sunday night, and we get out there into early Monday morning. This is the 17th. And already at that point, there's another system coming into the west coast. So this is what happens when you keep these open waves churning across the west. So we know that the west coast is going to take on all of these systems first. The mountains are going to invigorate them, and they're going to pop out in the central plains. But where is that moisture going to be? Because I'm going to be concerned about the places that miss the moisture and have the winds. And I'm talking about this area right in through here. Now we know we got moisture in through here just this past weekend, and of course it continued to spread into the southeast. But we just are going to have to take note that getting the possibility of wind gusts out of this next system in the 50 to 70 mile an hour range. We're going to look at 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts here, and there, I mean, it's just all over the map as this system rapidly intensifies and rips off these strong winds. I keep using that term, rips off. I feel as though that's the way we're going to talk about it. It's just going to come through in such a kind of a ferocious manner. It's going to be tearing stuff up. This is a pretty powerful system we're going to see here. And as I mentioned, we're going to have plenty of instability. This is just a look at the convective available potential energy on Friday night. Now, my color bar, just understand, when you see blue, blue does not mean low. I mean, we could get these values out to 2,100 joules per kilogram, and that's a tremendous amount of CAPE. Now, it's always going to depend on several things. The wind shear profile, where the moisture is, plus how the timing of the front is going to be able to build storms farther to the north. But this is where we're expecting Friday night for the highest CAPE values to extend. So that's a lot of eastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, parts of Arkansas and Missouri. But I think we could extend this into Illinois, Indiana. And as we get into Saturday, watch how quickly this moves off to the east. So that just tells us where we need to be paying attention to the severe weather threat. The Storm Prediction Center has this out for Friday night. This is their region for Friday night, and then they're going to upgrade this in the morning. So please go to the Storm Prediction Center website and check it out. And then that's where they've got it there for Saturday night. So Friday night into Saturday, watch these two areas right here. They will update this continually, but to see a day 6 and 7 outlook for them already is something we all must pay close attention to. Now, I think about it in regards to where we've had severe weather. We've already seen quite a bit of it across the south and southeast. This is very common for very early spring, but we could start to see these numbers increase in here and then again into this area as we get later into the week. All right, big questions still loom. Are we ever going to be able to pull back enough moisture out of one of these big systems to just deliver these storms into this area? Because, yeah, we did get a little stripe of moisture in through here. You saw that. But that came from a much, much weaker system, not one of these big dogs that's rolling through like you're about to see here. So we're going to take a look at that a bit more closely here. Here's the European model playing out the next 10 days. As we see, we are expecting through the beginning of this week some pretty heavy rainfall down in the southeast. Again, a drier region needing to pick up some more moisture. Now watch, this is Wednesday into Thursday. That's when the system hits the west coast. Wednesday, Thursday. All right? And then we're going to watch it come out on Friday into the plains. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to go ahead and take this out 10 days, Now, the European model is leaving a pretty large dry slot in this area. And it's also drier in parts of Montana, southern Alberta and Saskatchewan, and also here into parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, getting back into Wyoming and eastern sides of Montana. We do also notice that because of the speed and timing of this system, there could be a little band in through here, through parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan that has a little bit less precipitation too, and maybe even a bit over here in Virginia and North Carolina, just because of the speed and timing of this system. But as I look at it, my mind just keeps getting drawn back to this area, just a spot that keeps getting missed, while the West Coast is most definitely experiencing one of those miracle marches. If you're curious, this is the GFS forecast, and I went back and forth here just to show you. There are some significant similarities in this. One big difference is here, much wetter in the GFS, but that feature is almost identical in both models. Same thing with the dryness here to here. Okay. When we look at the snow, this is the 12, the 12 is a euro, but this is the 240-hour forecast, or 10 days. And some of these snowfall amounts in the west are significant. The models are a little bit off. The GFS, the 18Z GFS, was certainly much more aggressive on this, but it has been going back and forth and back and forth. I'd rather you land on this map. I think this is much more representative of what we could be seeing. And I do want to show you this just so you can kind of get an idea about what's going on in the west. We will likely get 4 to 5 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada, and a lot into the interior mountains, including the Colorado Basin, the Columbia Basin, way up here, the headwaters for the Columbia River, not in the Columbia Basin, which is there, but also, north of the Snake River Valley, like the Pet National Forest, just as an example, getting a lot of snow too. But just keep an eye in through this area, because we're not quite settled on how much snow is going to be there. I do want to show you the probability maps just to kind of give you an idea on the snow. This is the chance through the next 10 days, which captures this next big system, of course, of getting 3 inches. And so you can kind of see that area right in through there, plus to the north of it coming through the Canadian Prairie into Ontario and Quebec. And then our western mountains have this incredibly high chance of picking up a lot of snow. That's your map showing the probability of 6 inches. Let's go ahead and step it up to a foot. 18 inches. 24, in fact, we'll go all the way up to 48, just to show you how much is expected in the Sierra Nevada. Now from here, I'd like to show you the total moisture side of this. So let's go up to the probabilities of getting greater than an inch of total liquid. So now we see the southeast. We also see parts of Ontario, the upper Midwest, and then, like I said, the whole of the West Coast has taken a lot of this on. Here's the chance at 2 inches, and here's the chance at 4. All right. Who's drier? Well, this is over the next 10 days, the probability of staying under 1/10 of an inch. And again, this is where this dry slot continues to be quite expansive in these systems, simply due to their speed and trajectory and their inability to draw that Gulf moisture back yet. But remember something, if you're in the southern plains, April and May are your months, right? It's March we could think is still a little too early. It's April and May. So please remember that as we think about this going forward. Out into week 2, we still see the active pattern through the middle of the month. It's still there through the 19th and 20th and 21st, including this trough rolling through here. And I got another one barreling into the Gulf of Alaska by the 22nd. The models really wash the signal out significantly, though, as we approach week 3, which is why you're going to notice in a few minutes when I show you the new European extended, it looks like it's always looked. And I can't put a kind of a rational thought together to tell you why it looks the way it does. I'll show you a couple of things, but just hang on. This is what we see, though, in our week 2 forecast. They're all very similar for the most part and where they're projecting the week 2 rainfall. But I just want to show you the next 14 days on the whole. So what I'm really wanting to emphasize here is this region. And that just continues to show up drier, making the rainfall that just came through and the snow so very important for this region, because it's going back over quite dry through the equinox. This goes all the way out to March 23rd. The west continues to get it. Montana's drier. Parts of the western Dakotas are drier. We see the Great Lakes, the southeast, parts of the Ohio Valley into the northeast showing up wet too. Virginia, North Carolina, especially Virginia, we could go a little drier for a while, given how wet things were recently. But just wanted to make this point. Now, when you look at the most recent soil moisture, this again was what we just saw this past weekend, desperately needed. But before that, this whole region had been going over quite dry with top soil moisture. And we've yet to return meaningful moisture into this area. Now, again, this is topsoil. This is top 4 inches. It's not the 100-centimeter maps I typically show you. But we're just trying to get a good flavor for that here on Sunday, knowing that this is going to fill in nicely the rest of the night tonight into tomorrow. Okay? On the temperature side of things, this is where we've been since the start of March. Really no significant sustained cold air has really been around. But as we take a look at the temperature forecast going forward, looking at the next 7 days as to where we're expecting frost is what we've got here. But I want to bring you back to that temperature matrix to kind of give us this idea. Because if you remember last week, we were talking about the polar vortex disruption and it's the need of it to kind of align with the tropospheric polar vortex and all of those things. And now we look out there and we just don't see, especially across the east, significant cool downs in day 10 through 15. Oh, excuse me, day 5 through 10 or day 10 through 15. So I just need you to see that doesn't seem to be fully in the works now with this forecast pattern. Now, are we going to dip troughs in the west? I mean, just take a look at the day 5 through 10. Yeah. And this is all snow covered. That's why we're getting some cold signal there. So the pattern's going to stay active and we're going to get a lot of this. But I don't see a major turnaround in these temperatures through, March 19th, maybe even not out until after the end of March. We may finish March with a signal something like this. Now, I've got big questions as to why that is. Remember last week I showed you the La Nina analogs. Our La Nina is definitely fading. It's continuing to warm in that area, as you can see here. The La Nina ocean temperatures in Nino 3.4 are almost back to average, so all the cooler water's farther to the east. You could say, well, what's going on with the MJO? Well, it stalled out in phase 1. Remember last week I said, great, stalling in phase 1. Are we not going to see this until April? Is that how long the lag is going to be? And even the new European weeklies just dumped this thing back into null space rather than letting it sweep around, which was an earlier thought. So we're trying to weigh all these options, and what we arrive at is something you've already seen. The model, has it really changed? I mean, take a look at it here. This is now the March 21 to April 21 forecast from the European extended, the weeklies as we call them. And sure enough, we still see a drier area here, very active and wet there, and maybe better moisture for North Dakota. They need this. North and South Dakota do. So I just don't see a whole lot of change. Even in the Northwest or in the Sierra Nevadas, this continues to look this way. But there's one hint that's showing up in the temperature pattern I think we do need to discuss. So let's go have a look at it here. This is a 7-day sliding window through the next 45 days. So our first map goes all the way out there to March 16th. And we know this, right? Very mild east, cold west. Now we're out to March 22nd. Let's go out there even farther into, to March 26th. You're going, oh, what's this? Well, near normal, I guess. Still the coldest areas over the Great Basin, the Intermountain West. Now, I do know this. When snowpack is good in this area, there is always a spring bias toward colder. Like it just does that and keeps doing that, making these forecasts not reliable out this far. Where are we? This is day 10 through 17. What I want you to see is as we finish March and start April, the European model for the first week of April has made a pretty significant trend toward cooler in this area. And I've mentioned that I was a bit worried about that. I'm actually worried about this repeating itself for the first week of May as well. That's entirely based off of just looking at the behavior of the temperatures for the last, almost 12 weeks. It makes sense that it would come back cool during that time in this area, meaning that this is going to be wrong. This will actually be warmer. So I just look at it. That's all we can do at this point. Just understand that that is the first week of April. We're going to watch the trend in this as the new model runs come out. All right. The only new piece of long-range information, because we dug deep into the European model last week, is the newest NMME forecast. So that N stands for National Multi-Model, is the double M, and it's these 8 models. They go into making this graphic. That is the new April, May, and June forecast for precipitation rate anomalies. And man, did it trend drier over a much larger area. Now, is this model worth its weight in gold? It's not. No long-range model exhibits high skill score. I mean, it just doesn't. It's hard. It's so challenging to do because the sub-seasonal fluctuations are enormous. But this is what it did. It trended drier for a broader section of the country. And you're going, what did it used to look like? Well, this was all wet. And it's just not. This is the new May, June, July. Look at this. Much, much drier in this area. This is the new June, July, August. They've now gone an entire category drier in this whole region. And what's interesting is, like I mentioned last week, the only way to get this to happen is to put high pressure here. So the flow goes around it. We increase storms east. Comes through like this. We increase the southwest monsoon, especially if you plant a low off the coast to feed this in. So the model's being self-consistent. And this is July, August, September. Look, they're looking at normal monsoonal circulation. And this is August, September, October. Now I'm going to be honest with you. Do not look at this map and take their extremely aggressive color bar as like Dust Bowl era dry. We can't do that. All we can do with this is assess the trend. And all I mentioned is in last month's update, we did not have this. It was the other shade. So we just need to look at that. We're going to continue to look at analogs. We're going to find support for or against this. But remember, it is still the beginning of March. We have not yet passed what's called the spring forecast barrier. I have no idea how some of these sub-seasonal fluctuations are going to go. And I want to be just transparent with you. If anybody takes a stab at a sub-seasonal forecast, that's what they're doing. Now, I may do it too, but we are not Do not interpret confidence as meaning anything from any meteorologist right now. We're all going to be grasping a bit while we're watching the atmosphere overturn, which is what it does in spring. Now in the southern hemisphere, they're moving toward fall. And what's been interesting is that for the last month and a half, we've gone very dry in the eastern growing areas, right here in Brazil. Better rains in Argentina, except for northern Argentina. As we take a look at where this might be, though, this is what's really quite interesting. I'll tell you what, before I show you that, can I just show you this? This is the newest European forecast. Next 7 days, actually, look at this, next 10 days. Drier here, drier down there, with a wet spot in between. But day 8 through 14, all weekend long, this continued to show better rains. Day 8 through 14 is this broader frontal boundary, just kept stretching farther to the north. And the new European weeklies, which I just snuck in there, keep showing that. I think this model is way too stuck on persistence. Do you notice? Look, this is the whole forecast for the 30 days starting on March 21, ending on April 21. And does it not look like that? I mean, it's almost the same thing. So, do not be surprised. So this is the week 2 forecast. This is the month following it, right? The month following week 2 just looks exactly like the week 2. And that tells me that these models have not found a dominant signal to hang on to. And so there we are. We are at a bit of a time period of uncertainty here. And we're going to have to be, I'm going to have to be patient. But I'll keep you up to date every morning. And we'll just talk soon. I appreciate you letting me come to you on Sunday night here. We'll pick this up again with a regular cadence very soon. Thanks.